My girlfriend said, "You are being controlling," when I asked for 2 dates a week, so I stopped chasing entirely. What happened next destroyed her career and gave me the life I actually deserved. God, I am still shaking as I type this. I need to get this out because my entire world just flipped upside down, and I think I am finally understanding what self-respect actually means. I am Noah, 26 years old, working as a QA engineer in Austin, Texas, and until recently I was dating Madison. Let's call her Maddie, who is 25 and worked in social media for a PR firm on South Congress. We had been together for 8 months, and I genuinely believed we were building something real. Typing that now makes me feel so incredibly naive. The first few months were perfect. Thursday tacos in East Austin. Sunday coffee walks down South Congress. Weekend trips to Zilker Park. She would tell her friends she was so proud I was working toward becoming a software development engineer in test. That is, software development engineer in test, for those wondering. I believed every word. I believed we wanted the same future. But around month 6, everything shifted. She went from texting me good morning every day to leaving me on read for hours. Our weekly date nights became, I am swamped with work and endless rain checks. But here is what made my stomach drop her Instagram stories. Rooftop parties at the Domain, shows at ACL Live, private events at the Long Center. Always too busy for me, never too busy for, well, everything else. When I brought it up, I got, "You are being insecure." Noah. I have a life outside of us. Look, she wasn't wrong about having independence, but there is having your own life, and then there is treating your boyfriend like he is a backup plan you keep in your back pocket. 2 weeks ago, I did something that apparently made me controlling. I sat her down at this bright little cafe on South Congress and said exactly this: I need our relationship to have two-way effort. I am talking 1 to 2 actual planned dates per week, set up 48 hours ahead. If you are genuinely busy, then propose an alternate time that works. She smiled that perfect smile and said, "Sure, babe, I will try this week." That is when I made the decision that changed absolutely everything. I decided to mirror her effort exactly. No more being the guy who always initiates. No more overfunctioning. Just match her energy and see what happens. You guys, 2 weeks went by, 0 initiative from her side. Not one. "Hey, want to grab dinner?" Or "There is this show Friday." Interested? Nothing. But that is not even the part that shattered me. My roommate Tyler bartends on Rainy Street and knows everyone in Austin's social scene. He had been close friends with Maddie since before we started dating. They met through mutual friends at some Domain rooftop party last year. Last week, he showed me something from her Instagram that made my blood freeze. A private Instagram story that he could see because he was still on her close friends list from their early friendship. It was a soft launch post showing some guy's hands on a guitar with the caption, "He gets it," with a sparkle emoji. The timestamp. Same exact night she texted me saying she had an early night in and couldn't hang out. I didn't confront her. Instead, I started documenting. Nothing psycho, just her text to me versus what appeared on her social media. The patterns were, Jesus, they were undeniable. Here is what I discovered. She would text me saying work event ran late, exhausted with a sleeping emoji, but her Instagram story that same night showed her laughing outside ACL Live at 11 p.m. She would text family dinner, cannot do Sunday, but then post herself at bottomless brunch on South Congress with friends, location tagged and everything. She would say feeling sick, need to rain check dinner. But then her story showed her at Franklin BBQ, clearly not sick at all. Tyler said I should have called her out immediately, but something in me needed to see how deep this went. And guys, it went so much deeper than I ever imagined. 3 days ago, I discovered she had been using her company email to get VIP access to events, not for work, but to bring this guitarist, I will call him Jace, as her +1. That is not just lying to me. That is potentially fraud. But here is where it gets absolutely insane. My company sponsors tech setups for Austin venues, and last weekend, there was this big arts fundraiser at the Long Center. Guess who texted me an hour before asking if I could help get her and a friend backstage? I knew it was Jace. I knew she was literally asking me to use my professional connections to help her impress the guy she was cheating on me with. For the first time in 8 months, I said no. Her exact response, "You are being controlling again." That word, controlling, you know what is crazy? 6 months ago, that word would have destroyed me. I would have immediately started apologizing, explaining, probably bent over backwards to get her that access. But something had clicked. I wasn't being controlling. I was finally having standards. So I said, "I understand you are disappointed. I have 2 guest passes for the main event if you would like those instead." And then I did something I had never done. I went completely offline, phone on silent, focused on my actual job, gave those guest passes to Tyler and his friend Jenna instead. Reddit. What happened next? What I discovered about how far this betrayal actually went. I cannot even process it all yet. Because it turns out, when you stop chasing someone who doesn't want to be caught, the truth has a way of surfacing all on its own. And the truth about Maddie was so much worse than I thought. Update 1. Several of you asked for specifics about the timeline I mentioned. So here is what I documented during those 2 weeks when I stopped initiating anything. Tuesday. She texted exhausted from work, staying in tonight, but Tyler saw her Instagram story showing her at a rooftop bar in the Domain at 9 p.m. Thursday. Sister needs help moving, but she was tagged at Jester King Brewery with a group of friends. Saturday. Work event I have to attend, but her private story showed those guitar-playing hands with the caption "Saturday vibes" and a music note. The following Tuesday, feeling sick. Rain check on dinner. But there was a clear photo of her at Franklin BBQ. Definitely not sick. Friday, early morning tomorrow. Need sleep, but Tyler spotted her laughing outside Stubbs at 11:30 p.m. Look, I get it. Plans change. But she wasn't just changing plans, she was creating elaborate lies about why she couldn't see me while simultaneously documenting her real activities for everyone else to see. And this Jace situation, God. After posting yesterday, I went down a rabbit hole. This soft launch thing had been going on for over a month. Little glimpses of his East Austin loft. I recognized the warehouse-style windows, his coffee order at radio. His hands on that dang guitar. She was basically documenting an entire secret relationship for her close friends, while telling me she was too busy for us to spend time together. But here's where your comments really opened my eyes. Someone said she is using you for stability while test driving the upgrade. Holy crap. That is exactly what this was. See, Jace is this indie musician, does open mics at Cheer Up Charlie's, has like 2,000 Instagram followers, the whole tortured artist aesthetic. Creative, unpredictable, probably broke most of the time. Meanwhile, I am the stable guy with the steady tech job, reliable income, always available when her creative musician inevitably flakes. I was her safety net. Her plan B, her convenient option. Now about that work, ethics violation. Tyler knows this bartender Jenna who works Rainy Street and sees everything. She had been watching this whole situation and felt bad for me. Tyler had introduced them months ago when Jenna was helping with event coordination for some Domain parties. She has connections throughout Austin's hospitality scene. She confirmed that the night Maddie claimed to have a work event. There was no work event. Maddie had used her company email to request VIP wristbands for Stubbs, under the pretense of client relationship building, then used them to take Jace. That is fraud, right? Using company resources under false pretenses. But wait, it gets so much worse. Remember the Long Center Gala where she wanted backstage access? I didn't tell you the full story. My startup handles tech for Austin venues, registration systems, live stream equipment. I had legitimate backstage credentials for the event. An hour before the gala, Maddie texted, "Coming to the event with a friend from work. Can you get us backstage? Would love to show him the behind-the-scenes tech stuff." With heart eyes emojis. I knew friend from work meant Jace. She was asking me to use my professional access to impress the guy she was cheating on me with. When I said no and offered guest passes instead, she called me controlling and hung up. So I gave those passes to Tyler and Jenna, and that is when everything unraveled. During my break from the tech booth, I found Tyler and Jenna at the bar. Jenna shook her head when she saw me. "Noah, honey, She has been bringing that musician to every event she can access. My manager at radio mentioned seeing them together weeks ago. Everyone knows except you. That hit different. Everyone knows except you. I realized this wasn't just about me discovering her lies. This was about the entire Austin social scene watching me get played while I remained completely oblivious. But here's the part that still has me reeling. Friday night, I was at Luster Pearl with coworkers when someone tapped my shoulder. "Noah, you are Noah, right?" I turned around. It was him, Jace. The soft launch guitarist from all her stories. "Yeah," I said. "And you are Jace." His face went completely white. "Oh damn, look, man, I think we need to talk. Maddie told me about you, but I think there is some stuff you should know." And that is when I realized she had been feeding him a completely different story about us. "What did she tell you exactly?" I asked. "That you guys dated for like 3 months last year but broke up because you couldn't handle her independence. Said you had been trying to get back together but she kept turning you down because you were... Well, she said you were kind of intense about it, 3 months. Last year, intense ex who wouldn't take no for an answer. Meanwhile, we had been officially together for 8 months, and I was supposed to meet her parents next month. We have been together for 8 months, I told him. She literally has a drawer at my place." Jesus, he sat down heavily. "Noah, I need to tell you something. After hearing your name, I did some asking around. Maddie's been telling people different stories about your situation. Some friends think you are broken up. Others think you are figuring things out. And a few thought you were just casual. We ended up talking for 30 minutes. Turns out, Maddie had been compartmentalizing her social circle, telling different groups different versions of our relationship status. She had convinced Jace that I was a persistent ex, while telling our mutual friends that we were going through a rough patch but working on it. The creativity of her deception was actually impressive in the most disturbing way possible. Man, Jace said, she made you sound like you had some serious attachment issues, but you seem completely normal? I ask for 2 dates a week, I said. He bought me a beer. We talked about Austin music before leaving. He said something that stuck with me. You know what is weird? She always seemed really nervous when I would suggest posting anything together. Now I know why. Saturday morning, I woke up to 19 missed calls from Maddie. Jace had his own conversation with her Friday night. The voicemails were intense, crying, yelling, accusations that I had ruined everything, demands that I stay out of her business, threats about how I was sabotaging her happiness. But the last voicemail was different, quieter. Noah, I think there might be a problem at work. Someone contacted my boss about some event stuff, and Jace is asking questions. I don't know how to answer. I know you are angry, but can we please talk? I think I made some really bad decisions. Some bad decisions. 8 months of compartmentalized lies. Creating elaborate stories to avoid spending time with me. Using her work position to impress another guy, building parallel relationships while painting me as an unstable ex to justify her behavior. Some bad decisions. Update 2 coming tomorrow. Because what happened when her boss started asking questions, and the conversation where she finally told me the truth about everything. Reddit. You are not going to believe how deep this actually went. Update 2 Reddit. I thought Update 1 was intense. But this past week has been absolutely unreal. So remember Jenna, the bartender, who had been watching this situation. Well, it turns out that Jenna used to work in events coordination before switching to bartending, and she takes professional ethics seriously. When she realized what Maddie had been doing with company resources, she didn't just feel bad for me, she was genuinely concerned about the impact on Austin's tight-knit event industry. Rather than gossip about it, Jenna contacted Maddie's company through their ethics hotline. She provided specific dates and venue information about VIP access that didn't match any legitimate client relationships. Monday morning, while I was in stand-up talking about automated testing frameworks, Maddie was getting called into her boss's office. This is where I need to clarify something from my last update. I said before that somehow the email made its way back to me, but that is not quite accurate. What actually happened was that Jenna later told Tyler that Kara Whitfield, Maddie's account director boss, had contacted her as part of the investigation. Jenna shared the general gist of what was happening, but obviously couldn't give exact details. From what Tyler relayed to me, The investigation was swift, because Maddie's company has a zero-tolerance policy for misuse of client relationships and company resources. In the events industry, reputation is everything, and any hint of ethical violations can destroy business partnerships. That is when my phone exploded with texts from Maddie. "Noah, we need to talk now, and can you please call me? This is urgent. And I know you are mad, but this is serious. And did you say something to someone about work stuff? And Noah, please. I was debugging test automation, and honestly, for the first time in months, my work felt more important than whatever chaos Maddie had created. During lunch, I finally called her. Noah, I am freaking out. Kara is asking about specific events, and I don't know what to say. Someone reported me. Reported you for what? I asked. Though I already knew. For using company access for personal stuff. Noah, they are doing a full investigation. I could lose my job. You don't understand. This could ruin my entire career. And here is the moment that crystallized everything. In 8 months of dating, she had never once asked about my day, my STET preparation, my career goals, my projects. But the second her professional life was threatened, suddenly she desperately needed me. Maddie, I said, I didn't report anything to anyone. But if someone did, maybe they had valid concerns about professional conduct. Long pause. You are being really cold right now. I am being clear. There is a difference. She hung up on me. Wednesday, Tyler came home with an update from Jenna. Word was that Maddie had been placed on administrative leave while they conducted their investigation. Apparently, once they started digging, they found more than just the Stubbs incident. There was a pattern going back several months of questionable resource usage that Maddie had apparently assumed would never be scrutinized. But Friday night is when this story took its most insane turn yet. I was meeting coworkers at Luster Pearl when I spotted Jace at the other end of the bar. We made eye contact, and he walked over. Hey Noah, can I ask you something? Sure. How long were you and Maddie actually together? Like, officially together? 8 months. Why? His expression got dark. She told me you guys dated casually for a few months but never made it official. Said you wanted more, but she wasn't ready for anything serious. Casual, never official. We were talking about moving in together, I said. I was supposed to meet her parents next month. Damn. He sat down heavily. Noah, I need to tell you something. After we talked last week, I confronted her about all the different stories. About you, about the timeline, all of it. How would that go? She completely lost it, started crying, saying I didn't understand the complexity of the situation and that she had been trying to protect everyone's feelings. Then she said something that really bothered me. What? She said you had been in therapy for relationship trauma, and that is why she couldn't just cut contact cleanly. Said you were fragile, and she was worried about triggering some kind of episode. I almost laughed. Relationship trauma. Yeah, she painted this whole picture of you as someone who had been hurt before and couldn't handle rejection. Said that is why she had to be so careful about how she handled things with you. The audacity was actually impressive. She had turned my completely normal request for regular dates into a mental health crisis that required her careful management, justifying months of lies as protecting me. So what did you tell her? I asked. That I don't date people who are in complicated situations with exes. Period. And that if she wanted to be with me, she needed to handle whatever was going on honestly. And she swore she would resolve everything this weekend. Said she would have a final conversation with you, and then we could start fresh without all the drama. Jace pulled out his phone and showed me a text from Maddie sent yesterday. Hey babe, just wanted you to know I had that honest conversation with Noah. Everything's finally clear between us. Want to celebrate at that new rooftop place tonight? I stared at the message. We haven't talked since she hung up on me Monday. I know, he said. That is why I am here. Noah, I think she is. I think there is something really wrong with how she processes reality. We talked for another hour. Jace told me that in their time together, Maddie had consistently painted herself as the victim of unreasonable people. Her demanding boss, Her complicated ex that would be me, her judgmental friends who didn't understand her complex emotional situation. She was always the reasonable person trying her best in impossible circumstances. The thing is, Jace said, I believed her because she seemed so sincere, like she was genuinely trying to navigate these difficult relationships with grace. What changed your mind? Meeting you. You are nothing like she described. And then I started thinking about other inconsistencies. How she never wanted me to meet any of her friends. How she would panic if I suggested posting anything together. How she always had elaborate explanations for why simple things were complicated. That night, I drove home around Lady Bird Lake, thinking about patterns. Not just Maddie's lies, but my own responses. How many times had I accepted elaborate explanations for why simple things were complicated? How many times had I made excuses for behavior that my gut knew was wrong? Saturday morning brought 17 new voicemails from Maddie. Her investigation had concluded. The result wasn't good. According to Tyler's update from Jenna, Maddie had been terminated effective immediately. The company had found evidence of systematic misuse of client relationships and company resources that violated their professional conduct policies. The final voicemail was barely whispered. Noah, I lost my job. Everything's falling apart. Jace will not even look at me. I know I messed up, but I think I was just scared and confused. Can we please meet? I need to explain what really happened. I owe you the truth. The truth. After 8 months of elaborate lies, strategic omissions, and gaslighting, she was finally ready to tell me the truth. But here is what I realized. Sitting in my apartment looking out over the Austin skyline, I didn't need her truth anymore. I had already learned everything I needed to know. Final update coming soon. Because her explanation and my response, it turns out there is a massive difference between someone wanting you back and someone actually respecting you. Update 3. She finally told me the truth, and honestly, I wish she hadn't. Thanks for all the support. Reddit. The DMs from people saying this helped them recognize similar patterns in their own relationships. That means more than you know. So Maddie lost her job, lost Jace, and finally asked to meet for that truth conversation. She kept promising. I agreed, but on my terms. 1 hour. Public place. No expectations. Just conversation. We met at Medici Cafe on Guadalupe Street. She looked rough hair in a messy bun, wearing jeans instead of her usual designer outfits. The polished social media coordinator facade was completely gone. Thank you for agreeing to see me, she said, sitting down. How are you holding up? That is when she started crying. I handed her napkins and waited. I need you to understand what really happened. Why I made those choices. Here is what she told me. She had been feeling suffocated since month 4, not because I was controlling, but because I represented everything she thought she was supposed to want. Stability, reliability, a partner with goals. She felt pressure from her family to settle down with a good guy, and I checked every box. But she missed excitement and unpredictability. When she met Jace, he represented everything she felt like she was missing. The artistic lifestyle, the spontaneity. I wasn't ready to give up the security of being with you until I knew if things with Jace would work out, she said. So I was your backup plan. No, I just needed time to figure out what I really wanted. Maddie, you were in a full relationship with another guy while lying to me about being too busy to see me twice a week. What would you call that? Long pause. I was confused. She started crying again, said Jace, had turned out to be unreliable and self-centered. Said she had made the biggest mistake of her life. Said she missed how safe I made her feel. Then came the ask. What we had was real. I can change. I can be the girlfriend you deserved. 6 months ago. Hearing those words would have made me weak in the knees. But sitting there, I felt nothing. Just clarity. Maddie, I don't want to be with someone who has to try to care about me. In a healthy relationship, prioritizing your partner happens naturally because you love them. But I did love you. Maybe. But you didn't choose me when it mattered. I cannot build a future with someone who sees me as the safe choice while looking for something better. She got defensive. Said I was being unfair. That everyone makes mistakes. I am not punishing you, I said. I am just not available for this anymore. I paid for both coffees, wished her well, and left. 3 days after that conversation, I got the SDET promotion I had been working toward. 20% raise, stock options, the works. Turns out, when you are not constantly anxious about whether someone wants to spend time with you, you have energy for everything else. I adopted this 3-year-old pit mix named Pixel, who had been returned twice for needing too much attention. We run Ladybird Lake every morning now. Last weekend, I threw a dinner party and met this UX designer Sarah, who has the most infectious laugh I have ever heard. She asked for my number. The best revenge isn't elaborate schemes or public humiliation. It is building a life so good that going backwards becomes impossible. To anyone dealing with something similar, you deserve someone who chooses you every day, not someone who keeps you around for convenience. The most radical thing you can do sometimes is just walk away with your dignity intact.